let's talk about avoidant attachment. Because if you've ever found yourself wondering, why is he so hot and cold? Why does it feel like I'm chasing something I almost had but can never quite hold on to? You might be dealing with someone avoidant. But here's the truth a lot of people miss. An avoidant doesn't treat every woman the same. No, he acts very differently when he sees you as just an option versus the one who truly matters. When you're just an option, an avoidant man seems charming at first, mysterious, even addictive. He drops breadcrumbs. A flirt here, a date there. But there's always distance. He'll make plans and cancel last minute. He'll open up just enough to keep you invested, but never deep enough to make you feel truly secure. He enjoys the comfort of you being around without the discomfort of true vulnerability. Why? Because when you're just an option, there's no real risk. He doesn't fear losing you because he never truly let himself care, and that keeps his emotional walls intact. But when he sees you as the one, something shifts. Not in a movie-style, magical way. No, in a messier, more human way. He might pull away at first, not because he doesn't care, but because he does, and that terrifies him. Suddenly, he's aware of how much he could lose. His independence feels threatened, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because being close feels dangerous to someone who's wired to associate intimacy with pain or pressure. He might sabotage, he might test you, but if he's genuinely working through his avoidant tendencies, you'll also see glimpses of effort. He'll try to show up more consistently, even if awkwardly. He'll attempt vulnerability, even if it comes out clumsily. He won't be perfect, but he'll be trying. That's the difference. So if you're dealing with someone avoidant, don't just ask, does he like me? Ask, am I the one he's afraid to lose, or the option he's comfortable keeping around? Because the answer to that will tell you whether he's just running from you, or running from himself because you mean something real. Avoidant individuals often get labeled as cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable, but the truth is more nuanced. Their behavior isn't static. It shifts based on how emotionally invested they are. When a woman is just an option, avoidants can maintain their emotional equilibrium. There's no real threat to their autonomy, no challenge to their inner defenses. This kind of dynamic feels safe for them. They can show up in ways that are charming, flirty, even seductive. They'll engage in conversation, share laughs, and be present in small, digestible doses. But everything is measured. There's a ceiling to how emotionally intimate they'll let the interaction get. They might text but ghost when you express vulnerability. They might be affectionate in person but disappear when you ask about the future. You'll notice that the relationship feels like it's always one step forward, two steps back. Why does this happen? Because when a woman is seen as an option, the avoidant doesn't feel emotionally exposed. He's not risking anything real, so he can stay comfortably behind his walls. There's no urgency to clarify the relationship or define what you mean to him. And if things get too close for comfort, it's easy for him to pull away without guilt. He might even rationalize it, she'll be fine, or it wasn't that serious. He's not motivated to face the discomfort of vulnerability because the stakes are low. But everything changes when the avoidant senses that you might actually matter, when he begins to feel genuinely drawn to you, not just physically, but emotionally, his internal alarm system goes off. This is where his behavior becomes contradictory and harder to decode. Instead of becoming more open, he may become more distant. Instead of leaning in, he pulls back. He's not indifferent, he's overwhelmed. That fear of emotional intimacy that lives deep inside him gets activated. The idea of losing himself, of being hurt, of being dependent on someone, all of that surfaces. He may not even understand what he's feeling. All he knows is that something about you feels different, and that difference is scary. The avoidant attachment system is rooted in self-protection. When he sees you as an option, he doesn't need protection because nothing is really at risk. But when he sees you as someone who could actually hurt him because you could actually matter, he shifts into a defensive mode. That's when you might see withdrawal, inconsistency, or even sabotage. He might pick fights over nothing. He might criticize you or suddenly question the relationship, not because something is wrong with you, but because something is happening in him. He's struggling with the internal conflict of wanting closeness and fearing it at the same time. That's the critical difference. It's not that avoidants treat everyone the same. They treat people based on how vulnerable that person makes them feel. When you're just an option, they're relaxed and in control. When you're the one, they're triggered. and that trigger reveals more about their emotional wiring than it does about you. When you're just an option to an avoidant man, the patterns in his behavior are usually subtle at first, but become painfully clear over time. He shows up inconsistently. He'll initiate contact when it suits him, often when he's lonely, bored, or craving validation, but he won't be dependable. He may send good morning texts for a few days and then go silent for a week. He'll flirt and give you attention, but it always feels like it stops just short of anything real. There's a rhythm to it, just enough interest to keep you emotionally engaged, but never enough to make you feel safe or secure in the connection. One of the clearest signs you're just an option is how he treats time with you. He's rarely proactive about plans. If he does make them, they often come last minute, like you're the backup if nothing else works out. You'll notice a lack of investment in the details, no thought out dates, no consideration for your schedule, no consistent follow through. He keeps everything casual, undefined. If you try to initiate a conversation about where things are going or express your emotional needs, you might be met with discomfort, defensiveness, or even silence. That's because for him, attaching emotionally requires energy he's unwilling to give to someone he doesn't see as a long-term priority. Communication tends to be surface level. He might joke around, flirt, or even have intellectual conversations with you, but the moment you start expressing genuine emotion or talking about vulnerability, you hit a wall. He might change the subject, minimize your feelings, or withdraw altogether. It's not that he's incapable of deep connection, it's that he doesn't feel the need to go there with someone he considers temporary or optional. Deep down, he keeps a mental and emotional buffer between himself and you. That buffer ensures he doesn't get too close, because closeness means responsibility, and responsibility feels like pressure. Another way avoidants treat someone as just an option is through selective availability. He'll be available when he wants attention, but mysteriously busy when you need support. If you ask for more time or clarity, you'll often be made to feel like you're asking for too much. He might even guilt trip you subtly. Why are you making things complicated? Or, can't we just enjoy what we have? These lines serve to keep the relationship on his terms and avoid deeper commitment or accountability. What makes this dynamic especially confusing is that, on the surface, he might still appear interested. He'll say just enough to keep hope alive. I really like you. Or, you're special. But these words are rarely followed by consistent action. You're left trying to decode what he means, giving him the benefit of the doubt, and staying emotionally invested in something that gives little in return. This ambiguity is intentional. It allows him to maintain your attention without having to step into the discomfort of emotional responsibility. When you're just an option, it's not that he doesn't care at all. It's that he doesn't care enough to change his patterns, show up consistently, or risk vulnerability. When an avoidant man starts to develop real feelings for a woman, when she's not just someone he enjoys, but someone he fears losing, his behavior doesn't necessarily become warmer or more affectionate right away. In fact, quite the opposite can happen. He may suddenly seem more distant, more inconsistent, or more emotionally unavailable than before. This is one of the most confusing parts of dealing with someone with avoidant tendencies. The moment things begin to get real, they often pull away. And it's not because they don't care, it's because they care too much, and that emotional intensity feels overwhelming. Avoidants are wired to associate closeness with danger. Somewhere in their personal history, vulnerability became linked with pain, pressure, or rejection. So even when they meet someone who is kind, patient, and emotionally safe, their nervous system still interprets intimacy as a threat. When he starts to see you as someone he could really connect with, someone who could actually hurt him or expose the parts of himself he's worked so hard to keep hidden, his natural instinct is to retreat. That doesn't mean he doesn't value you. It means your presence is activating his core fears, fears of losing independence, fears of being judged, or fears of being abandoned once he lets his guard down. This is why it's crucial to understand that pulling away doesn't always mean a lack of interest. Sometimes it's a sign of emotional struggle. He might begin to feel things he doesn't know how to manage. Instead of leaning into connection, which would be the healthy response, he distances himself to regain a sense of control. He may stop responding to messages as quickly. He might avoid making plans. Conversations that used to flow easily might now feel stilted or avoidant. And you, being on the receiving end of this change, might start to wonder what you did wrong. The truth is, You probably didn't do anything wrong. Your emotional presence just became too real for him to handle comfortably. It's also common for avoidants to create conflict as a defense mechanism. If things start to feel too emotionally intense, they might pick a fight, criticize small things, or manufacture distance in some other way. This self-sabotaging behavior is a subconscious attempt to reduce intimacy, to remind themselves that they're still in control. The irony is, this often pushes away the very person they're starting to care about deeply. But in the avoidant mind, pushing someone away feels safer than staying close and risking rejection or engulfment. At the heart of all this is fear, not apathy. When you're the one who matters, he may act colder or more erratic, not because his feelings are fading, but because they're intensifying. His instincts tell him that closeness equals danger, so the more you mean to him, the more he might push back, not to reject you, but to protect himself from emotional exposure. That's why avoidance can sometimes appear more present when they care less, and more distant when they care more. When an avoidant man starts to care deeply about a woman, his actions often become inconsistent and confusing, but within that inconsistency, there are small signs that he's trying. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, vulnerability is uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar, and in many cases, it feels unsafe. So when he starts to see someone as important, it doesn't necessarily lead to a surge in open affection or direct declarations of love. Instead, it often results in a quiet internal conflict. On one hand, he wants connection. On the other, he's afraid of losing his autonomy or being emotionally hurt. This tension shows up in how he behaves. The real indicator that you matter to him isn't perfection, it's effort, even if that effort is clumsy, inconsistent, or subtle. You may notice him doing things he wouldn't normally do for someone he sees as temporary. He might reach out first more often, even if the conversation is light. He may start showing up for you in small but meaningful ways. Offering help when you're stressed, remembering details you've shared, or checking in on how your day went. These gestures, while they may not feel grand or dramatic, represent a significant step for someone who is more comfortable keeping emotional distance. His comfort zone is avoidance, so any move toward connection, no matter how small, reflects internal progress. You might also see moments where he tries to be vulnerable. Maybe he shares something about his past, opens up about a fear, or admits when he's struggling. These moments might be rare or awkward, but they matter. Vulnerability doesn't come easily to someone who's used to guarding themselves. If he begins letting his emotional guard down, even in fragmented pieces, that's a sign he sees you as more than just an option. You're someone he's trying to build something real with, even if he doesn't yet know how to do it in a healthy, consistent way. It's also worth paying attention to how he responds to emotional tension. If he used to shut down completely during a disagreement, but now makes an effort to explain himself, that's a sign of growth. If he tries to repair things after pulling away, even if he doesn't do it perfectly, that's effort. Avoidants often fear emotional messiness, so choosing to engage instead of escape, even once, is a step forward. These attempts to reconnect or communicate, however imperfect, reveal that he's not just defaulting to his usual avoidant patterns. He's recognizing your value and is trying to meet you halfway. Even if he stumbles, it's easy to miss these signs if you're looking for the kind of romantic consistency someone with secure attachment might offer. But when dealing with someone who leans avoidant, it's not the absence of avoidance that shows you matter. It's the presence of small, intentional effort in spite of it. If he's trying to move towards you, even while battling his internal fears, that means you've made an impact. It's not about flawless communication or emotional availability. It's about progress, no matter how slow or subtle it appears. One of the most important questions to ask when you're dealing with someone who has avoidant tendencies is not, does he like me? But rather, is he afraid to lose me? That one question reveals more about your place in his emotional world than any romantic phrase or fleeting moment of affection ever could. When you're just an option, there's no real emotional risk involved for him. He might enjoy your company, appreciate your support, and like the way things feel when they're easy, but there's no deep urgency to keep you in his life. Your absence wouldn't disrupt his emotional balance because he hasn't allowed himself to attach at a meaningful level. In that scenario, he feels safe precisely because he hasn't made you essential. But when he fears losing you, everything shifts. Fear of loss only comes when someone matters. And for an avoidant, that fear is especially intense. They're not just afraid of heartbreak, they're afraid of what closeness demands from them: openness, vulnerability, consistency, and emotional risk. So when an avoidant man starts to feel like you're not just someone he enjoys, but someone who could truly hurt him by walking away, it creates a powerful internal reaction. That fear, while often unspoken, becomes the silent signal that you are no longer just someone he's passing time with, you're someone who matters. That fear can manifest in different ways. Sometimes he might begin to reach out more when he senses you pulling away. He may become more present, more attentive, not because he's suddenly figured everything out, but because the thought of losing you finally cuts through his emotional detachment. Even if he doesn't say the words directly, his behavior subtly shifts from passive to active. He starts noticing when you're distant. He asks more questions. He shows more investment in what's going on in your world. These changes aren't always dramatic, but they're real. They represent a departure from emotional autopilot and a move toward intentional connection. On the other hand, when an avoidant feels no fear of losing you, when he assumes you'll always be there, no matter how little effort he puts in, he stays emotionally lazy. He gives the bare minimum, responds on his own time, and avoids accountability. He may even say he cares, but he's not motivated to back it up with action. Why? Because he doesn't believe your absence would truly impact him. He's comfortable, safe. Detached. That's why this one question, is he afraid to lose me, cuts through all the confusion. If he's willing to take small emotional risks to keep you, if he shows even imperfect effort when you distance yourself that reveals something deeper than words ever could, it shows you're not just filling time in his life, you're occupying space in his heart. But if he feels no urgency, no fear, and no emotional consequence at the thought of losing you, then you have your answer, no matter what he says. So here's what I want you to take with you. When it comes to avoidant men, it's not just about whether he's pulling away. It's about why. Is it because you're a comfortable option he doesn't feel the need to fight for? Or is it because your presence makes him feel something real, something vulnerable, something he's not used to handling? That difference is everything. You deserve more than emotional breadcrumbs. You deserve someone who's willing to face discomfort to meet you where you are. Someone who doesn't just fear closeness, but chooses growth anyway, because you're worth the effort. And the truth is, someone who sees you as the one might not get it perfect, but he'll try. He'll show up, even if it's messy. And when you stop settling for being an option, you create space for someone who sees you as the only choice. Thank you for being here, for investing in your emotional clarity, and for not settling for confusion when what you want is connection. You deserve love that is not just present, but committed, not just consistent, but intentional. Take care of your heart, lead with self-respect, and always remember, if someone isn't afraid to lose you, they're not ready to have you. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, be kind to yourself and never forget your worth